Hello everybody, thank you for joining us on our very first Spooncraft open mic poetry night. Please give a nice warm welcome to our first performer, Flat Cones. What's up guys, Flat Cones here. This is a poem which I wrote in just 5 minutes. Please enjoy. This is my intro for today. I hope the sky does not turn grey. For rain in the sky doth bring a tear to thine eye, though that same liquid which flows from thy ducts is the very same which stops that block which destructs. That fountain of life offers you a sweet bribe, and of course this dear viewer should now subscribe. It is in this poem your final task. It is in this poem all that I ask. Thank you. What's up guys, Flat Cones here. Welcome back to Spooncraft Season 6, Episode 7. I'll be honest, I'm lasting a lot longer than I thought I would. I really thought at this point I would have given up. So I'm very proud of myself that we've made it this far. As always, I hope you enjoyed that lovely intro. Now, as you can see, today we are in the part of my island which currently doesn't have a lot of development in. And that is because that is going to change today. As you can see in front of me are 3 lovely shulker boxes which we now have access to thanks to the end being open. And inside is a whole bunch of materials ready for the next build to be built right here in this little gap. But now that we have an elytra and some rockets, I figured it might be a nice idea to just get a nice quick aerial view of what the island looks like so far. Now obviously over this side is very blank, which is why I've decided to build something over here in this episode, kind of add something to the other side of the island. But this side of the island is looking very nice with our clock tower iron farm, our big nether portal, and of course our villager trading hall, which still doesn't have any villages in. And then we have our lovely egg still waiting to hatch. I wonder how long it'll be until it hatches. Over here we have our very badly designed house, which is meant to be non-permanent, but it's sticking around for much too long. So today we're not going to build a house, unfortunately, but instead what we will be building is our storage system. Because if I just go back to the house, you will see that these chests over here are quite nicely organised. Got all the wood in this chest, got some cobblestone and netherrack and dirt in this chest, and then all of the stones and like spare tough and deep slate and moss. But then all of these ones are just kind of, I don't know, this is also a nicely organised one, but we have some armour and our spare elytra, and then we get on to the mess. It's just not at all organised in the slightest. So hopefully today will change that, because we are indeed building a storage system at long last. Now, I'm personally not a big fan of automated storage systems. They have their pros, but I quite enjoy being able to sort a storage system, know where everything is. If you have a manual storage system, you kind of have a better feel for what items you do and don't have, whereas when it's automatic, it's just like, do I have that? I don't know, because you're always just dumping all your things into one chest and then walking away from it. So for that reason, we're going to go for a manual storage system this season. And as you can see, we are planning to have quite a lot of chests. So with that being said, let's get building. And here we are getting to building our lovely storage system. It is going to be so nice to finally get all of my items in order, because I hate being disorganized. So using those 4 chests where every item was just everywhere was absolutely eating me alive. So being able to finally get ahead of it and sort my items is going to be so nice for me. Now in episode 5, I asked you guys to put some questions down in the comment section for me to answer, and I've picked out one lovely question from our dearest viewer and friend, Sanctuary, and it was, what was one notable thing that has happened to you recently, effectively? So I figured I would answer that question in this lovely time lapse. The thing that I shall be talking about is that on the Tuesday just gone, obviously this being posted on Monday, so pretty much a week ago now, I story told my first ever game of Blood on the Clock Tower. Now some of you may be familiar with this game already, and if so, well done, I think you're cool. If you don't worry, I still think you're cool, but you could be cooler by knowing what Blood on the Clock Tower is. So Blood on the Clock Tower is this social deduction game where it is the good team versus the evil team, where the good team are trying to find out who the evil team are, basically, when it's dumbed down to its basic level. Effectively, how it works is there'll be a demon in the game who kills at night time, and then there'll also be minions who will have certain abilities, like for example there's a poisoner who makes it so that people's information is wrong in the night, or there's a Scarlet Woman who, when the demon dies, if there's 5 or more people alive, the Scarlet Woman becomes the demon. So it's a get out clause for the demon if the demon accidentally dies. And then you have the good team, who there's loads of different roles and they each have their own different ability. So for example, there's the chef who learns how many pairs of evil team are sat next to each other, or there's the undertaker who learns the character that was executed last night. And then there's roles like the monk who choose a player and they can protect them for the night, so they're now immune to being killed by the demon. And it's a really cool game that I've been able to play for quite a while now. I've been playing since about September, so nearly a year now. And for my first ever time, I was the storyteller. And the storyteller is the person who kind of controls the game. They're the person who does something called building the bag. They choose all of the tokens and the roles. They put it into the bag, which the players of the game get to choose their role from blindly. And I was the person who was in charge of the game. And it went really well. So, as I said, I've played this game many times now, so I was quite comfortable with the rules, but I'd heard that storytelling was actually a little bit difficult, and it was, to be fair. It was quite overwhelming. There was a lot of things to keep track of, and people kept asking questions, and I had to be like, oh wait, and I had to re-clarify the rules to myself, and I had to make sure that I was telling the person who asked the question the right answer, so that they could go on and solve the game. But all in all, it was a very fun experience, and if you don't know Blood on the Clock Tower, go check it out on YouTube. There are hundreds and hundreds of videos that you can watch that describe the game is in a much better way than what I have right now, and you can also watch people play it, which is how I learned to start off with. A few channels that I can recommend are No Rules Barred, Good Time Society, and the YarChe-Cast. In fact, the YarChe-Cast do it in Minecraft, so if you like the Minecraft aesthetic, maybe that's your way into Clock Tower. But I would absolutely recommend everyone get into the game. It is a game that everyone can enjoy. Everyone always has fun when I play it. It's very rare that I'll finish a game of Clock Tower and people will be like, I didn't get it, or I didn't understand it, or it wasn't fun. It's a bit confusing at first, and there's a lot to understand, but once you get a hold of it and fully understand the information and the possibilities, it's a really fun puzzle solving game. So that was the fun thing that happened this week. And here we have it. One storage system nicely complete. Now, it does look quite similar to our trading hall, and I think that's just because it's a very similar shape. It's another cuboid with 2 of the little parapets on top, and obviously it's got the same block palette because it's part of one overarching city which uses these blocks. But the lore that I'm going to give behind that and the reasoning for it is because in a city like this, it's not exactly going to be a big city, it's going to be a small city. There'd probably only be 1 or 2 designated architects. So my reasoning behind the buildings looking the same is because it's all being designed by the same architect. So they're going to look similar to one another because it's that architect style. But in reality, I'm designing the buildings and I have one style, and also it's easy to just follow the same kind of techniques with the deep slope brick pillars, with the stone, with the tough brick slabs and stairs across, and the terracotta and the warped wood. It's all just very similar. But it is of course different on the inside because there is no room for villagers, but we have all of these chests ready to eventually have item frames on them with little items in them to signify what's inside them. And of course we need to fill out the bookshelves with books, but it takes a surprising amount of books to fill out these bookshelves. But yeah, we do also have a nice bit of interior. Oh, we need to light the candles as well, didn't realise that. Got a few chests, got a nice little rug which I've put in other houses that I've got in my creative testing world, and then we have a second floor as well with another rug and a little bed in case I ever want to sleep in here if I'm ever on this side of the island, and then more chests and a little bit of interior as well. And then of course the roof, same as all the other roofs, just these little parapets of shade and cover. But let's get a nice little aerial view of it now that we have an elytra. There we go, there it is. Looks very nice. And here we go, as you can see, that is very similar to that. The storage system is ever so slightly smaller than the trading hall, but if you look at it from just a quick glance, they do look very similar because they both have the 2 towers on top and the vertical blue ice as well on the top floor and the little pyramid. They do share some design qualities, so they do look similar, but they are ever so slightly different. And once the whole town is in, it'll be a bit harder to tell them to show that. I think it's just because they're the only 2 buildings that aren't a clock tower right now, so they're going to look quite similar. But all in all, I'm quite happy with the design. And now, after farming just a little bit of leather, all of the item frames are in. And I've also started to add in a few of the books, both downstairs and upstairs, to the chiseled bookshelves. It really does make a big difference. It just takes up so many books. I've used almost 2 stacks of books, and I only got the top floor done, and then a few of the bottom floor as well. Still need to light the candles as well, just remember that. Now that we have all of the item frames in, we just have one big long job to do, and that is to slowly move all of my items that are currently in the semi-permanent house over on the other side of the island to over here. We'll use our shulker boxes, so it shouldn't take too long, but it's just going to be a lot of sorting at the end of the day, which is always going to be fun. So enjoy this lovely POV time-lapse. And just like that, all of the chests that were in this amazing house have all been relocated. Here they are in my hotbar, all 18 of them. They were pretty full, so it took me quite a few trips back and forth in order to fully sort them. Now, let's go over to our newfangled storage tool, and I'll give you a nice rundown of how I've placed all of the items. And here we are. As you can see, we have now finally lit the candles. Before they were just sitting there unlit, but I've now lit them. And I've also got all of the items in their item frame to signify what is in each chest. As you can see, over here is all the woods. So in here is all the oak stuff. Here's all the spruce, the dark oak, and so on and so forth. Mangrove, jungle, acacia, cherry, pale, bamboo, birch, and then the two stem trees as well. Then over here we've got the more kind of naturally blocks. So we've got the stone stuff and smooth stone, the cobble stuff and furnaces, stone bricks, which I don't currently have anything of, but anything that's a stone brick will go in there eventually. And then normal bricks, so that's also where pots will go. Then we have sand and gravel, with a little bit of glass as well. Then this kind of cold chest is how I've been describing this one, as the mainly just compressed ice and the snow blocks. Then we have the much more mining side of things with dirt and moss over here, granite, the diorite stuff, andesite, all the tough blocks, all the deep slate blocks, and a few other kind of mining related blocks, dripstone and obsidian there. And we've got these four which are empty, which is just all the 4 stages of copper, which I don't currently have any of. Nether blocks, which is kind of the most randomish chest. Well, the second most random, but the other one has a reason to be random. Endstone and shulker shells. I was debating putting shulker shells into my valuables chest, but I figured that might eventually need more room in it, so I'll just put them in here for now. When they're probably shulkers, then I might put them in the valuables chest. Prismarine, which only has a very little bit, but hopefully I'm going to get more of that at some point. And then some sulfur and cinnabar. And then upstairs, we have what I've decided to do is maybe a little bit strange to some people. And I've separated an entire wall just designated to colours of things. So this is anything that can be coloured. So light blue is the best, to have for it because it's the thing I have the most of. So it's where all the dyes will go. It's also where all the flowers will go. So if you look in red, the poppies are in there. So each flower will go into its designated dye chest instead of having a flower chest. So the dye for the colour will obviously go in the chest, and then anything that has been dyed that colour, so terracotta, wool, carpets, things like that, they'll all be going in their designated colour. And I figured that was a nice way to sort it instead of having, you know, the terracotta chest be overflowing with all different colours. If I ever get multiple colours, it's better to just have it by colour. And then I've got just one chest here, which is where all the uncoloured ones go, so uncoloured terracotta. And then finally over here we have an armor chest, as well as also just like some tools, so flint and steel, as well as some shears, just tools and armor. Then I've got the valuables chest, which doesn't have a lot in it. That's because I have my diamonds in my ender chest, which I need to place down still. I'll place it there, I think, by the ladder. So there's my lovely diamonds and some goat horns, which I own, as well as some custom discs. Then we have the mob drops, so we've got ink sacks, rotten flesh, bones, arrows, spider eyes, all that kind of stuff. And then I've got food and crops all in one chest. And then this is just kind of the miscellaneous chest. We've got all my heads and then honeycombs. Splash rate and weakness, which will eventually go once I get on the job of actually doing my trading hall, because I've still currently got no villagers for that. Bear books, which I got at some point. And then a redstone chest, because eventually I'll be building some redstone contraptions, I imagine. So might as well get ahead of sorting that out of the normal valuables. And that is it. So now we have a much more organized storage system than we did before. I've also now set my spawn here, so this is effectively my new house. So at some point that house that's on the other side of the island is probably going to be destroyed. I'm not sure when. And now with our lovely storage system all nice and built, it is time that we bring this episode to a close. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you have all had a wonderful day. Do all of the normal YouTube stuff that you've all been doing. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell me what you thought of this episode. Tell me if there's anything you want to see in the next episode. But until then, thanks for watching, and bye guys!